everyone talks about social value now, in past years and so on, but, culture is something that always generated social value before people started talking about it in that way. I think that if people sort of start appreciating culture, creativity, the power of the people in general, then places will be better.
Hello, welcome to Talking Place, the podcast bringing placemakers and storytellers together to talk about place. I'm your host, Tanisha Raffiuddin. I am the founder of Concept Culture, a creative agency in London, passionate about creating purposeful brands and telling powerful stories. In this episode, it is my absolute pleasure to talk place with my good friend George Kekatos. Recorded live at the Seed 130 Gallery in the heart of the City of London. George is the cultural director at Futurecity and has delivered cultural placemaking strategies and public art commissions on a global scale. He is currently leading Futurecity's portfolio of cultural strategies with an emphasis on projects in London, the UK, and internationally. Through his work, George is developing partnerships between cultural organizations and property developers, and devising plans that result into new cultural infrastructure and meanwhile programs. In previous experiences, George has worked in cultural projects around the world in visual art, science, and experimental design. We cover a lot of ground in this episode around why culture isn't just an add-on, but a powerful tool for urban regeneration, identity, connection, and joy. Bridging the gap between artists and developers, funding culture through Section 106 and other partnerships, and the future of cultural infrastructure and creative cities. All right, let's talk place. George, welcome to the Talking Place podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
And what a pleasure to be hosted here at the Seed 130 Gallery, which I'm sure you're going to tell us all about, one of Futurecity's many wonderful projects here in the City of London. So for context, George and I have known each other for a number of years now, and we've had great fun collaborating on Futurecity projects, both here in the UK and abroad as well. Mm-hmm. We had a wonderful time at Dubai Expo.
And don't forget, we've had a wonderful time up and down in Cannes.
Yes, we've had many a wonderful time in Cannes. Yeah. Yes, we are conference buddies. Yes. Very true. So, George, as you've said to me previously, you're not from the built environment, yet you're now very much a part of it. Mm-hmm. So let's start with your journey. How did you find your way into real estate and property, and what drew you into this incredible intersection between culture and the built environment?
So the long version is...
Go for it.
The short version is I parachuted myself in London. The long version is that I grew up in Athens. Athens is a very creative, fun city. And I grew up within a creative business. So my parents and my family owned a creative business. So I grew up very much in that intersection of creativity and business. And I've always worked on small and medium businesses. And that's how I've learned to basically, it's a little bit of hustling, and that's very much how the creative industries work in terms. I consider myself to be a cultural worker, a person that works in culture in the creative industries more than the built environment to an extent. So as I said, I studied economics in Athens, and while I was doing that, I was project managing projects around the world with holography and doing holographic projects in museums all around the world, from Greece to Russia at a time where it was a bit more okay working there, and Shanghai and other places. Then I decided to move to London, and that decision came very much so from sort of a very strong desire to work within a strong cultural sector and find people that are sort of like-minded, because I always knew they were out there.
Yeah.
And so I came to London. I did a master's in goldsmiths, and then I did anything you can imagine in the cultural industries, from invigilating at the Barbican to working at the Royal Festival Hall, doing shifts here and there. And then, as I was finishing my master's, I started fundraising for this experimental design studio, which I then run as a kind of a studio manager. And through that, I found Futurecity. And I started knocking at their doors and calling them and being like, I want to work with you. And a couple of tries later, they hired me. And they hired me as a project manager without me knowing anything about the built environment other than what the general public knows about that world. And very quickly I started being part of really long design team meetings and taking notes, and then one thing led to another, and I'm now cultural director at Futurecity.
Oh, when you said long design team meetings, right?
Yes.
I think there's a collective
sigh.
Part.
It's an essential part of the industry, which I really enjoy, actually.
Yeah.
Because you learn quite a lot of things. This is how I learned to speak that language and how those things work. It is quite invaluable. And the collaboration, what people don't realize about the industry and the, what it takes to build a building, all the time, even pre-planning application and sort of determination and so on, the work that goes into that and the collective effort and all the different teams and people that know deeply their profession. I think this is one of the most beautiful things of this industry, is that how the collective work that goes into things. And it's something that keeps me to it quite a lot. I feel it's fascinating.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'm very much of the view that the built environment sector is one of the most rewarding industries or sectors that you can be a part of, because your day-to-day impacts everybody, everything that you do. I mean, you spoke about buildings specifically, but we're going to talk about places generally. We live our lives in places from the moment we're born to the moment we take our last breath. We will encounter the built environment, and it is such a wonderful feeling to be part of that. And to your point about the complexity, I think people underestimate, or people aren't aware of the complexity that goes into delivering projects of this scale. So, yes, very much like you, proud to be a part of the sector, despite sometimes how challenging it can
tough,
can be. So, coming to place. And as you know, this is a question I ask everybody at the outset of the podcast. What does place mean to you?
It's sort of, riffing off something you said just before, I feel place is kind of everything for the people that live within it. I come from a place where people are very rooted to the cities or the villages or the islands or wherever. I've come across people that have not moved from the little village in a very small island to go 15 minutes walk to the other village ever in their lives. So place can be very important for people. And there's this antithesis between sort of Greece and the UK and Athens and London, where in London things are moving quite fast and people are coming and going and so on. For me, it's a very, very important thing. And I think it's the going back and forth from London to Athens. It is quite a tough thing to be doing actually, because what is place, what is home, and that kind of that's a very kind of going to philosophical sort of areas there. Yeah, I think place is a very important part of our lives, I think.
Absolutely. And you have mentioned Athens a number of times already, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What is your favorite place in the world?
Yeah, it's a bit of a cliche. I travel a lot, and I do, and I've loved a lot of places around. But to me, as I said, a favorite place, you have to have a connection with it. So I left Athens being my home for 27 years, and then I came to London. Now London is my home. So those are my two favorite places. I choose to stay in London. It's not I'm not out of any obligation here. I choose to stay here, and I choose to go back and forth from those two places because I love them. And Athens is a kind of a slower place, and a kind of, as I said, it can show you those roots and the sense of belonging. It's a very fun city, and it's a sort of growing and changing city. And its proximity to the sea is something that is quite important to me. So I grew up very close to the sea, and I feel that I'm very connected to bodies of water, and it's something that I really need. But then London, on the other hand, is a place that I'm still discovering after 8 years being here, and it seems that this sense of discovery is kind of endless. The fact that I can jump on a Lime bike and just go from one place to another. Look at the summer in London. I mean, it's incredible. Only this period, I think, it's festival season. Last week I was in Hyde Park doing a festival, and then I rode a Lime bike over to the other side in East London, so friends outside. It's an incredible city. And I've been recently rediscovering Soho and all those places. I think for me it's very important to have things to do. I grew up in cities, and it's very important to have a late night eat and a good gig to go to, and a good exhibition where things are happening. Although I do try to escape cities as much as possible for my own sanity, but I grew up in places like that, so it's natural that they're my favorites.
So a couple of things that align and resonate quite strongly with me too. So I'm a water person too. Although I'm not a strong swimmer, but I'm a water sign. And I grew up in Hong Kong and Mumbai, cities which had proximity to the sea. And then I moved to London, and I was like, where's the sea?
it's like there's no end to it.
Yes,
there's no sea.
Where's the sea?
Yeah.
Where do I, and at least we have a river, and now I live by the riverside. So that has had a huge impact on my health and well-being and quality of my life, this visual connection to water. And then the second thing that I loved about what you just said was London's endless possibilities of discovery, and that is true. I mean, did someone say that you get bored of London, you get bored of life?
And through the built environment, there's a thing that we don't often see. I mean, maybe it feels more natural to other people that have sort of grown into that environment, but we get to know London and cities in a very unique way. We know the backstories of the buildings and the places, and how they came about. I know if I need to light an artwork in the Shard, under the sort of Shard Square in the quarter there, I know where the PowerPoints are, which is it's important.
It's important. Power and water.
Yeah. So there's that. And I remember the first time that my parents visited London, I got a zip car and I picked them up from Heathrow. And I was showing them all the Futurecity projects starting from Heathrow. And it was like a joke because it was dozens of projects. And I was like, so I've worked in this, I've done, I don't even want to look at it. And, because there's always stories, and they almost couldn't believe it, but it is like that. And also through the work and sort of culture and placemaking, where we actually go into sort of researching and knowing a place quite well from a cultural and more emotional perspective, you kind of get to know stories now, which is quite interesting.
And that brings us nicely into our next segment. So let's talk about Futurecity and your work at Futurecity. How would you describe what you do to someone who is unfamiliar with the term cultural placemaking?
Right. So Futurecity is a culture-led placemaking agency. So it's quite different to it's quite more niche than what other people do with placemaking. And within that spectrum, we do strategic work where we do master planning in schemes that are district-wide or single buildings or even cities. And we look at how we can leverage culture to generate value in many different areas. So we do that strategic work. We commission public art, and we also create cultural partnerships, which means sort of many different things, but potentially finding occupiers from the cultural world for new developments or sort of generating bridges between culture and the built environment. And also many times we actually deliver programming, which is the space we're in is a very good example of that. So that's what Futurecity does. And Futurecity is a collective of about 12 to 15 people that are sort of as a core team, and then an associates, a pool of associates with incredible knowledge that work with us on a more freelance basis. So it's a small company doing sort of big projects. We do projects from London and the UK to all around the world. So that's what Futurecity does. What I do within Futurecity these days is I've passed through many different things in sort of the Futurecity spectrum of projects. I started delivering public art. My first project in Futurecity was to put an artwork in St. Giles' Square, just underneath Centre Point in Tottenham Court Road. I wasn't even 1 week in Futurecity, and that was my first thing that I did. It was temporary through COVID. Now I stopped delivering public art because I now let calmer people do that, and so people that have stronger nerves. And then now I'm sort of overseeing the portfolio of cultural strategies, starting with our portfolio of London and the City of London. So we've done quite a lot of work here, as you mentioned before. So any project that has more cultural focus, as it were, and it's not more generally placemaking or regeneration, comes from me. And essentially it's projects that generate new cultural infrastructure, cultural partnerships, and so on. So I'm overseeing that, but I am a cultural strategist. So I basically coordinate research and try to do things with it and generate visions for sort of cultural visions and big ideas for places. And then I do quite a lot of convincing afterwards. So I try to, it's not only me, the whole team obviously, but I'm talking about my role here. I do quite, within design teams and local authorities and so on, I try to then sell those ideas so they can get embedded. And many times also creating sort of output frameworks, projects, small, short, medium, and long-term sort of projects, which we then sort of deliver.
Let's say someone, a developer or an asset manager, comes to you and says, George, we want a cultural strategy.
Yeah.
How would you go about delivering that?
I'll say, when do you want that?
Oh, okay, fair enough. All right, that's your first question.
No.
All right,
it's not. Well, you first look at the place. So what we start from doing a research. So it's a very much research and evidence-based approach. So the convincing, as I said, happens through data.
Yeah.
And that's very important. It's not our opinions. There is our passion within that work and our agenda to drive growth within the culture and creative industries, and our personal sort of passions within that. But there's also what is fitting for a particular place, and that comes from research, whether that is the historical and geographical context of an area, what kind of assets it has, because we never create proposals that will compete with what's already there. We try to complement what's already there and find real gaps and fill them and try to help the ecosystem that's there. It comes from policy many times. So we would look at policies. We would try to interpret those policies creatively and say, okay, here's what you're saying, the policy, here's what we think you'll need. And so out of that, we would create a set of an ambition and a vision and a mission for a place. And then we would find sort of some principles or define some principles that would be embedded within a design team and or a design team or a team of local officers and so on. So everybody can speak the same language. So everyone can be in the same sort of, we're all on the same page here of what we want to do with the space. And out of that, we would then create a set of deliverables. And we would test all that. It's very important to test our work through whether that is cultural stakeholders, and so that means that we test the evidence, we test our ideas, and we assess demand for those ideas, but then we also assess appetite for collaboration. So we do quite a lot of, and I do within my role quite a lot of one-on-one interviews with culture organizations, practitioners, artists, and then it's also listening to communities quite a lot. And that can happen through a lot of different ways. So we are not engagement experts, although we would engage with, we would collaborate with engagement experts to do deeper sort of community engagement sort of analysis. But we will also find creative ways to do that. So through collaborating with artists, embedding artists into design teams, and then doing workshops. Meanwhile, projects like this, where we try to hear what people want or try to understand how people will behave. Yeah, and so then we hope through a cultural strategy to create something that is deliverable, something that is through this process, something that is tested and evidenced, and then something that can then very easily turn into actual deliverable. So a key is for a strategy to be simple. We work quite hard to not add unnecessary complexity in a strategy, because obviously, it is usually culture is seen as the last thing that is important into a series of things, within development, and because of the many difficulties of building something. So we try for it to be something easy and fun to do, and something that can, generate value.
Yeah. I want to pick up on that last point because I think that's very important. So you mentioned that culture is often at the bottom list of priorities, but you and I know that that's far from the reality.
Yes.
Culture is everything.
Yeah.
So, in your experience, what's the role of public art and cultural programming in transforming urban environments, especially in areas, urban areas that are facing transition, regeneration, or renewal? And why is it so essential in shaping the future of our cities?
Well, it's what is the role of art in our lives and creativity in the everyday things that we use and so on. I mean, look at everything around us has been designed by creatives in a way. So public art is one thing, cultural programming is another. They all contribute to making a place at least a little bit better than what it would have been if it was just a designed place, and a little bit more attractive to people to actually live in. through those things, you can achieve quite a lot. So, for example, in the City of London, there's quite a lot of history in all of the different pockets and all of the different areas that we're working within the square mile. And it's a very good, public art and culture is a very good way to tell those stories, bridge sort of the history and the contemporary in many different ways. Now, so there is the storytelling element. What's the story of a place? What is its strapline? What is this place? What is it about? For example, in the example of the Fleet Street Quarter, where we did a cultural strategy for them, the place very evidently is a place of stories. So, it's a place where stories are born, and connecting to those stories, and programming then reacts to that and gives a reason why. Why do you do programming? How do you attract funding for that programming in the future, and so on? So there is that as a role, which is very important, making places more vibrant and easier to live in and work in and play in. Then there is the value that those things can add, which is many times it's very difficult to measure that value, especially in projects that are sort of deep into the future, because as we know, all the lead times for those things to be delivered can be years into the future. So how do you measure things? I mean, you can go back to previous case studies and do that, but then setting there are different metrics that one can use, and so those can be from social value embedded in different, how do people engage with culture, and that can generate quite a lot of social value. Different ages and projecting into the future, engaging with younger people and so on, catering to different demographics. Financial value can be quite important. Places do become more attractive, and that's a win for the investors, for the developers. They become more interesting. And that's very important to companies now. Office schemes and sort of places where people work really crave sort of culture and creativity because they see something in that. And then there are other things like environmental sort of explaining. So culture can really be a catalyst that explains different ideas, more complex stuff. So everybody talks in the conferences we go to, everybody talks about social value and sort of sustainability and so on. Culture is a way to just, it's a lens, and it's a tool to interpret those things and deliver against them. So that's what we do with cultural placemaking.
Yeah, I love that. I think that was the theme of this episode: culture as a catalyst, culture as a lens to communicate what's important to us as human beings. So let's talk about that in action. So we are here in Seed 130. Tell us about this project. What's the story behind it, and what's the impact it has had so far?
Right. So I'll start with the City of London. Because I think that the City of London is trying to do cultural placemaking in a very unique way. It's a unique experiment. I don't know how much you know about that, but in the City of London, a few years ago, cultural strategies became a requirement for every planning application that goes in. So you have to have a cultural plan. And that led to us doing quite a lot of work in the Square Mile, generating new culture infrastructure and sort of connecting the dots with other things. Us and other consultants and other sort of design teams, incredible work has been put forward with its challenges, obviously, of how to deliver those things, who are the occupiers in the future, how do you decide after a point what are those attractions and so on. But this whole notion was called Destination City as a vision, which I think was quite an ambitious thing to do and quite a unique thing, because it's like trying to change the identity of a whole district of 2,000 years financial and legal history into more
Wow.
culture and leisure,
Yeah.
which is incredible. And we've done quite a lot of work with that, and I think there's been amazing work put forward. So going back to Seed 130, obviously we are in Fenchurch Street in the Eastern City where all the big blocks are. And the building we're sitting on is completely empty. It's owned by Aviva and has been here since the 50s. And there were plans, we were appointed as cultural consultants to create a cultural strategy for the planning application for that. So here's the good thing about being early in the process,
Yes.
being brought on early in the process.
Yes.
You can do quite a lot of things and you can influence quite a lot of the decisions. So in this project, we were it was the planners, the architects and us in the room. There were no designs of the building when we came in, which was very, very interesting. So we started talking about, how can culture be within a tower in different ways. We did loads of research, obviously. One of the things we found, also looking at it in relation to what else there is in the city and those planning applications and so on, we realized early on that there's no gallery in London or anywhere that we know at least that is dedicated to sustainability in a urban environment, in a more dense urban environment. So the organizations that are looking at sustainability and art plus science and so on are usually outside of London, like Kew, National Trust and so on. So we started talking about, what if we had a place in that, a space within that new building that does that is a gallery about sustainability. And so we started calling it many different things and then we started designing it with going out, talking to stakeholders and so on. In that process, as it usually happens, shout out to my boss and friends and mentor, Mark Davey.
Oh, yes.
We had a little moment where he called me and he's like, maybe we should do a Meanwhile program and do a gallery. I'm like, that's great. Okay, so I put it in a presentation and we showed it to the clients, Core and Aviva, who I have to say they get culture. They're really. We've done other things before with them in terms of Meanwhile and quite ambitious sort of projects, and so they said yes, and we then started unpicking that and trying to say, okay, how do we do a gallery? So we chose a unit. This unit used to be a bank. So it's
yeah, I can also imagine people coming through the front door and
so where you're
going
sitting
to the teller.
Cashiers, yeah. We fitted it out with the help of the client, and we'll consider the architects of the scheme. And then I put together a team through Futurecity and sort of associates, which I lead, and we started programming then the whole year. So we started with Matt Collishaw's Move 37, which you saw.
Oh, that was fabulous.
Which was looking at AI and sustainability, its impact in the environment, and how it can potentially help sort of save the environment. But that sort of paradox there. And then we had an exhibition with UAL. Right now we have a degree show with UAL. Right now we have Studios Wine, sort of retrospective of their works around the world. And later on we'll have National Trust, which is opening. So on the 31st we are opening the National Trust exhibition. You heard it first here.
Yes.
And afterwards we have Invisible Dust. So many different, good partners here. Very exciting program. It's a free gallery, so we always wanted it to be free, so people can visit it Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Saturdays have been going quite amazing, actually. Which is something that we did not expect.
No, in the city of London, especially. Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest. And we also have an events program where we do talks, panels. You've been to some of them, but also we'll start engaging with schools with a new academic year. So we have loads of things in the pipeline to do loads of engagement, which is also free. I think, the biggest satisfaction of this project is that it's a gallery open to the public, so that you can see the impact very directly.
Yeah.
And that's placemaking, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
This is and the power of meanwhile. But it's also a bit disruptive that it is in the city of London, in this area where nobody would expect it. So the response from like the local workers, and I'll tell you a little bit of a story. If
Tell
I
me,
have
yes.
So I was the day we opened Move 37. Obviously, we were working quite a lot for everything to be perfect and so on. And then we were here in the morning. We open on 12 every day, and I said to everyone, "Okay, that's it. Open the doors. The gallery is open now." So we open the doors. Nobody comes in. We would just sit here in a dark space, looking at the artwork, and we were talking about sort of technical things. And somebody walks in.
Yeah.
Without knowing, we didn't really advertise it. And so somebody walks in, sits down, looks at the artwork. And I sat beside him, and I was like, "Hi, so how did you hear about this?" He said, "I work in the area, I just walked in, I heard the music, and I just walked in."
The music
yes.
brought them in. Wonderful.
So, and that's a very powerful moment.
Yeah.
He thanked us and so on. And then we've had, ever since, about 1,800 people walked in since the first. I haven't checked the numbers in the past month, but the first exhibition had 1,800 people.
Yeah.
Loads of events. We were Guardian's exhibition of the week when we opened.
I noticed that.
So it has been going, touch wood, it's been
yes,
going quite
touch
well.
Wood, yeah. Oh, amazing. And I had a number of follow-up questions which you've actually answered very, very well. But I want to pick up on one thing you've talked about, and the city of London and the whole destination city, and this ambition to rebrand, let's say, reframe the perception from the financial and legal heart of the city to a place where you could come and experience culture and leisure. So, I mean, what are the opportunities or challenges that have come with, culturing, programming in such a historic yet commercially driven area?
I think it applies to all the areas really, but there are loads of opportunities for everyone involved. So we have this. I should have mentioned it before, but we have this this idea that the 5 C's work together in cultural placemaking. Yeah. So the culture as a catalyst in the center sort of explains the other forces and connects them. So one is civic, sort of the local authorities and the government and so on. The other is commercial, which is the clients, the people that build, the business improvement districts many times, the businesses that exist in an area as stakeholders. Then it's the communities, quite importantly, the ones that already exist in a place and the ones that are coming in the future. And then the consumers are the people that are coming to the end users of the whole thing. So all those things ideally work together, where cultural placemaking works in sort of effectively. So as you understand, through that, opportunities are many. So there are opportunities for, I'll say from a culture and sort of creative industries perspective, opportunities to grow and go to places where people wouldn't go to work and do programs that they wouldn't do. Get outside of their buildings and or actually go to new places that are fit for purpose. Do things in the public realm, and so on. So there are opportunities to do quite a lot there. Engage with new communities. And for communities, I guess, then the opportunities are to be heard and have a say in what is happening, and have a little bit of skin in the game.
Yeah.
For the developers and so on, I think it's very clear what the opportunities are. Helping them get planning, make their places more interesting, more attractive to investment, to occupiers, and so on.
Yeah.
And then for consumers, it's in the end, it's what we like to say, not copied and pasted things or just Instagrammable moments, but
Oh, yeah.
genuinely transformative experiences.
Yeah.
So there is this big shift in everything, that how we do things, how we work, when we go to the office, how we shop,
Yeah.
what retail is. Had to go to Selfridges to pick up something. It was such a strange experience now. So it's everything's different now.
Yeah.
So it's very important to actually, and the future generations are, will be experience based.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm 100%
So we'll
on
have
board with that.
to cater to that, but also we will have to still be mindful of the generations that live now, and the sort of more older generations and what they want,
Yeah.
and that's also very important. So there are many opportunities there. And when it comes to challenges, I guess there's the kind of how do you deliver all that? What's the, who you're going to find? What's the actual volume of a space or of a new space? What, is this all going to work?
Yeah.
It's very scary sometimes.
Gosh.
But as long as you have like good research and teams that know what they're doing and people that have the appetite to deliver against those things, I think, and adaptable plans, I think.
Adaptable plans.
Adaptable business models.
Absolutely.
Building flexibility within the things.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, a development project starts, the money are approved like 5 years ago, then the team is being set, planning and so on. By the time that it's delivered, the world is changed. So flexibility is key.
Yeah, no, and we're seeing that pan out right in front of our
Yes.
eyes as well. How much the world has changed since 2020, since the pandemic, and now 2025. We live in a completely different world. Lifestyle patterns have changed. Office patterns have changed. How we shop, as you mentioned, has changed. Now we are living in a society where, you touched upon Instagrammable moments, and I would also add TikTok moments as well. Like, how many times have we walked through a public space and you see a group of youngsters doing their little TikTok dances, and giving them that space, and I love that they feel comfortable to do that in a public space. Think we're millennials, but would we be seen doing that? Okay, let's not go there.
Doing other things.
Let's not go there.
I've played music in a public space.
but you see what I mean. Like, that they're living, they're creating content in the public space, and I think there's something very very beautiful about that. And your final point about delivery. Perhaps you could share, through your experience, what are some of the common pitfalls or tick box tendencies you've seen, and how do you push past them?
I think one of the most important things in the work that we do is being brought in early. And that's only because you can influence quite a lot of different things and actually, be part of the decisions, and that's where meaning comes in. So we have this idea of, in Futurecity, of flipping budgets. It's one thing that we say. So it's like, there's a budget for landscaping, we can do an artwork with a collaboration between landscape architects and artists. Or, there's a budget for a bridge, give us that budget and we'll give you a artwork you can walk on.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So there's that. If we are brought in, us and other consultants and so on, I'm sure others will agree, you can't influence those. You can't, if everything's set within and the budgets are spent, and so you can then, it's very few things that you can do. And that's when it can be a tick box exercise of, we have a planning application in 3 weeks. Please come in and help us. We are prepared to do quite a lot of things. Well, it will be 3 weeks until we have a first meeting,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, we're not working that way, but it's like how things work sometimes. So early engagement is key. And then it's all about, having the appetite to actually sort of deliver against, sort of go past the buzzword. What is social value?
Yeah.
And but, actually understand what those things mean.
Yeah.
And, everyone talks about social value now and past years and so on. But, culture is something that always generated social value before people started talking about it in that way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's actually sort of, I think that if people sort of start appreciating culture, creativity, the power of the people in general, then places will be better.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Kind of automatically.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. So, George, we talked about this earlier. Your work is at the intersection of culture, property. But how do you build bridges between artists, institutions, developers, and investors to ensure meaningful outcomes for all parties?
Right. So it's going back to the 5 C's and so on. So that's the starting point, right? When it comes to work between culture and the built environment, we do quite a lot of work to explain the kind of like win-win situation there, because strangely those sectors can go quite well together. Because developers the built environment needs content and access to communities, and the cultural world needs space, because spaces are, as organizations evolve, they grow bigger than their spaces. So a lot of what we do is actually translating between, back and forth between the two. What's the different languages and the different needs, which are quite different. Those sectors work on different speeds and different deliverables and different reporting structures when it comes to funding. They have different stakeholders to adhere to, and so there's quite a lot of back and forth there. I think, we're always looking at, and I do quite a lot of, discussions with culture organizations without an agenda and without having, so quite a lot of what I do is actually going and meeting people and seeing their spaces and so on. So then you can be creative when there's an opportunity. But then we always try to embed some sort of partnership within our development we're working on. And we have a process of actually bringing those together when there's something big sort of being sort of generated there. So that's that part, and that can be quite meaningful from we did the project we're part of the project, the Migration Museum moving to the City of London, the Royal Philharmonic to Wembley Park. We did a project with Centre Pompidou and an Australian development in Melbourne. And so on, so all of those different, which is like very big things. And we approach them in a very human way, a very honest way. Then when it comes to artists, that's a different sort of game, but we try to then embed public art within a development, so the idea of the embedded arts, points where within an area, place, a district, whatever, where you can do plug and play art. So that's future proofing a place. Or then, as I said, the budget flipping kind of idea. But what's happening then with art is something that I really enjoy doing is, we have very transparent processes of how we engage with artists, and we bring them in and sort of a long listing, short listing, different committees and so on that choose the artists. But once you have them in, you create sort of very comprehensive briefs that they can respond to. And usually there's this stakeholder engagement part, or the community engagement part, where you have artists sort of giving them a budget to go and do whatever they want with communities. And there are elements of co-designing artworks and that are then in buildings. And we've seen this. We've been doing that in Holborn Viaduct in a project for a few years now. Where there's an element of also heritage and archaeological findings, and then communities of businesses from Smithfield and an artist sort of bringing them all together, which is a very interesting process. And that sort of also creates a kind of a feeling of civic pride for people that live around an area. And that kind of engagement we've also done elsewhere. I think you've been part of the preview program we had done at Upper Ground, which is a very good example. Again, we did that with Core,
young creators,
and Mitsubishi, and young creators. And that's a project where we gave space to young people and organizations from Lambeth that needed space. Where? At the ITV Tower in the South Bank. And they engaged with quite a lot of young people. And then the only thing we asked of them was to come in and do workshops with our architects. And critique the design and make it more inviting and so on. Imagine if you're a young person, you get that opportunity. It's an amazing thing.
Oh, it was incredible.
So I think, there are many ways to bridge the gaps, I think. And then the benefits are immense for everyone.
Something you said reminded me of what I heard at South by Southwest. So I attended this talk where Sam Ryder was on the panel, and if you know, Sam Ryder is our Eurovision hero, the UK's Eurovision hero.
Right, I don't follow Eurovision.
You don't follow Eurovision, that's totally fine.
And I have the Greek, if I do follow it, I follow the Greek Eurovision side.
Anyway. Well, Sam Ryder is, I call him our Eurovision hero because thanks to him, Eurovision came to the UK and I got to experience it. But he mentioned something about, to your point about artists need space, and especially emerging artists, and there are not enough spaces for them. And he made the point that if artists don't have space to create, imagine the amount of talent that you are losing out on because there's no space for them to create. And that stuck with me. That was so powerful because he talked about his own story as he would record TikToks during the pandemic in his garage. And then he was discovered over time and he grew his TikTok following organically, and that then got him further discovered, then launched as a UK's Eurovision entry, and now he is this phenomenon. But he started in his garage. So how many artists out there who are talented and then need that physical space to perform or create or curate, and it's not available to them?
And trust me, in London, there are quite a lot of things actually happening and quite a lot of space that is available. It might not be affordable, which is a very big problem. And, there is a need for new culture infrastructure.
I think that was the point, that they were not the affordability point.
And affordable culture infrastructure. And, there are many, policy is really trying hard to sort of bring that into the game. And, GLA is doing things with sort of their culture infrastructure maps and so on, and the culture at risk registries. And then, many developments are bringing back more and more people are getting it, and that need and what they can get out of that. Having said that, there's also a need for a specific type of place when it comes to artist studios, when it comes to rehearsal spaces, when it comes to all of these spaces need a specific sort of volume, specific specification.
I get it.
But they do. So it's sometimes difficult to, and then it's who pays for those spaces, who maintains them, and so on. There are definitely efforts, and then there are many fallbacks when artists are displaced and so on from like very rooted studio areas and so on. There's definitely a shift in those things. At least we see. And we see
a good shift. A shift in the right direction.
Yes, we see local authorities sort of pushing for meanwhile space, getting more sophisticated and asking for more things. I think this is something very smart to do. because if you don't ask, you don't get, and
Yeah.
it's like the example of the City of London sort of doing that and actually recruiting teams that know what they're talking about and what they're asking for, and other local authorities do that. But obviously, there's also a balance which always comes up in discussions and so on. There's a balance between we don't have money as local authorities, but we have immense needs when it comes to social welfare and other issues that are more pressing than artist studio, which is very needed. So it's like the choices of, but there's definitely a shift. At least I see it like that, and I try to be positive with those things, then not sort of catastrophize. I think that we have now a Labour government, and which in theory appreciates the arts more. They don't ask for artists and creatives to retrain, at least. I don't know if you remember that. It was a very bad moment and traumatic moment in the collective memory of loads of us.
Yeah.
So at least there's that. And, this is the UK that has an arts council and those bodies that try. Because I always compare it to Greece and the not having any of that.
Yeah.
And kind of the focus only on the archaeological and old stuff and things like far-right activists going into museums and throwing things around and things which are very recent things that have happened.
Wow.
So there is the appreciation going back to the artists, I think, much more. But things are moving slow to change.
Yeah. So you mentioned Arts Council. So I just want to touch upon, since we were talking about affordable spaces, so it's important to talk about money and funding. So where does the funding typically come from?
For the projects we're working on?
And I guess the question then is, how do you convince clients that culture isn't just an add-on, but an asset, something that creates value or helps you with planning gain, as you have already alluded to?
So in the projects we work in, the tendency is that funds are coming from developers. Whether that is a Section 106 obligation, or for those that don't know from that world, Section 106 agreement is a legal agreement between a local authority and a developer, comes into every development around, and it's like essentially sort of agreeing what the public benefit is going to be from that development, sort of what is that development giving back. So many times, there's not a lot of percentage for art and sort of things that existed before. It's more the local authorities that know that they need cultural infrastructure sort of leveraging 106 funds to deliver that infrastructure, which is quite a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, so we work quite a lot in that area. When it comes to projects that are more, local authorities as clients or business improvement districts, it's funds that are more public and they have to be very carefully allocated in different activities.
Yeah.
We rarely work with, we never get, we're a private company working as a consultancy, so we don't apply for Arts Council funding or anything like that. But we do help many times clients or local authorities and so on unlock funding through that cultural placemaking work.
Yeah.
A good example is Basildon, where we did work, connected Basildon to other things outside of it, and that's allowed them to apply for funding. So they really use that strategy.
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot of convincing, as I've said before. And it's the evidence that this will work, the testing it, and the sort of testimonials through cultural organizations and so on. Communities wanting the spaces and feeling that it's that proposals are good. So then you're able to, because the convincing goes in through every direction. It's not, you have to convince the local authorities, the communities, the clients, and so on. So you have to really believe in what you're.
Yeah, no, I love that. You have to believe in.
Yeah, you really have
you
to
have
believe
to
it.
believe. You have to believe.
And that we always say to our teams, especially researchers, that if we are believing it has to be true.
Yeah, well, thank you for articulating the various funding models, as it were. I wanted to ask you about some examples where you believe that the project team has cracked the cultural placemaking element, either through your work at Futurecity or other examples from around the globe that you'd like to share.
Well, I think, if we're talking about London, I think Wembley Park is a very good example. We've worked there for years, and we're able to really influence things. And what happened there, which changed everything, is that the principles that we put together were really embraced by the design teams, the client team, and so on. So everyone started delivering against those. And then when we talked about embedded arts and sort of different points where we can do things, that really happened. They appointed a cultural director, and they started doing culture in many unexpected places. They brought in the Royal Philharmonic to even do things before their building was delivered. I think that looking out to, European cities, you can see that they potentially don't need placemaking the same way that we need it here, because they don't speak in the same way about the built environment. They don't have the same architecture and so on. But I think that a very good example of sort of organic placemaking is Venice. So I think the immense success of a big sort of traditional festival or biennale in that case, which transforms the whole city for a year. It's a reason for someone to go to Venice and do all the other things and explore the city, but it takes over the whole city. Which is, I think it's a very strong thing.
Do you think locals benefit from global events like the biennales?
It's a
very the sigh.
It's a very big discussion, isn't it? Because they do and they don't. It's like there's definitely something about over tourism in every place, and it's kind of destructive tendencies. But it's how then local authorities regulate those things. I would say that the actual biennale in Venice actually benefits the people, because it brings art from all over the world, and I cannot believe that this is not benefit.
So let's wrap up. So my final segment is typically the future gazing segment. So what's on the horizon for Futurecity and for you personally? Are there any projects or themes that you're particularly excited about?
Well, as I said, I laid out the whole program of the gallery, which we're very excited about. So there's the website seed130.co.uk. Our Instagram is @seed130, or there's an underscore somewhere, but you can find it. So we've got quite a lot of exciting things happening, especially from September onwards, when people come back from holidays. So we've got, and around London Design Festival and Freeze Week and so on. So we've got quite a lot of things going on. So very excited about that. Now, when it comes to Futurecity and our work, we're carrying on the different projects in the UK, things that are being built right now, which that is also very exciting, and quite rare that someone sees those things sort of through to the end. And then we are very much looking sort of towards international projects, which again is very exciting, because to see how the work that we do here is transferable to other places, and how this language can be applied somewhere else, and what the different challenges are, and or the lack of challenges many times. So yeah, we're Futurecity is just continuing the radical creativity. I would
amazing,
say.
Amazing. If you wanted to see one big change in how cities approach culture in the next 5 years, what would it be?
Well, in the next 5 years, now or in the next 10 years, I don't know. I would say it's going back to that thing about appreciating artists and artists, creatives, the whole industries, and so on. Your point about studios and need of space, that comes from, actually valuing, understanding the value, and really, in the end, sort of loving what culture and art can bring.
Oh, I love that.
So I think that's a change. Many places do that quite well, and as I said, I don't believe that London does it badly, and it's like many different areas. But I think that cities in general would quite benefit from that, and I'd like to see that happening, and I'll continue trying to convince people that is a good cause, basically.
Yeah, and I absolutely would back you 100%, and it's a vision I share very much as well. Let's, maybe us as everyday people, put our money where our mouth is and show appreciation for art and culture, and that then gives the signals to the powers that be who make these things happen, that yes, we love our art, we love our culture, and we want them to stay wonderful. So what's next for you, George?
Well, going back to the creativity and business, sort of, which is where I started, I think that creativity is a wide spectrum, and one that when someone sort of activates the brain that way, where they can do many different things, basically. So, and Futurecity is a great vehicle to be doing that, and I'm really glad sort of working amongst such incredible people, smart and skilled. So for me, it's just carrying on that. If you asked me a year and a half ago, or about a year ago, if you told me that I'm going to be running a gallery in the City of London and I'm going to have a partnership with the National Trust, I'd say, okay, cool. So it's like I'm just looking forward to what the future will bring. And
think big.
Yeah, exactly. It's that I know that personally, and that's because he asked me to talk to sort of any young people that may be out there and so on.
Yeah. So what's your message for someone?
I'd say it's like being open to opportunity and expose yourself to things that are happening around you. Many times I've seemed to be in the right place at the right time, and that's because I don't stay at home. That's really because I'm doing things all the time, and I have this need of, one might say, I've been driven by FOMO. There's always something happening out there, and I do things all the time, and I know I work and I know, and I hang out with people that do the same, and that can really then connect you to incredible things. So I think that's my view is don't look at your phone.
Don't stay at home. Get off the phone. Go experience culture and talk to people.
I look at my phone all the time.
But talk to people, and that's where the magic and the collaboration can happen. Well, George, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
It has been very fun for me too.
Yeah, you've taken us around the whole journey around culture and placemaking, and shared some wonderful stories in there too. But now we're going to move into our final fun segment, which is called Know Your Neighborhood Quiz.
Okay.
It's a fun little quiz where we get to know a little bit more about your neighborhood, and it's no surprise that we are going to be talking about Athens in Greece. Athens, the city where democracy was born, gods walked the Acropolis, and souvlaki is practically a cultural institution. I ate so much souvlaki when I was in Greece. Every time I go back, loved it. And I can't find good souvlaki here in London. Maybe you can share your recommendations.
I don't have. I make them at home, but
I'm coming home next.
We're bound to try it. I'm taking the whole Futurecity team. We're doing this thing where we do dinners from our homes. So I'm taking them to a place that was recommended to me, so I'll let you know how that is.
Yes. So let's begin.
All right.
All right. So I'll share 3 facts, and all you have to do is to let me know whether you think they're true or false, and feel free to explain your rationale behind your response. All these facts have been sourced from the internet. They have not been cross-verified for accuracy. So
Was
whatever
it ChatGPT that?
whatever the final answer on my notes stands.
Okay.
All right? Okay,
Yeah,
cool. Let's
yeah,
do
yeah,
this.
yeah.
So, number 1. Athens was the first European city to introduce a pedestrian-only archaeological promenade.
Well, I don't know. I would assume yes, because they are pedestrian-only sort of archaeological sort of spaces, and there's one comes to mind, Plaka comes to mind, where it's like you can't move a car, although people move cars in there, but the police moves cars in there. But I would say yes.
Okay,
Is
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is correct. So the Grand Promenade, introduced in the early 2000s, links major sites like the Acropolis, the ancient Agora, and the Temple of Olympian Zeus, a placemaking masterstroke that turned a traffic-jammed city into walkable wonder.
It's so those things happened before the 2004 Olympics, basically.
Yeah.
And really changed the way sort of tourists really move around the city.
Yeah.
They're quite nice.
Yeah,
They are.
yeah.
So that was the place I had in mind when I said
Yeah,
Prague.
excellent. All right, fact number 2. Athens has more theatrical stages than any other city in the world, even more than London and New York.
Well, I don't know, but what I know is that, when was that? It must have been like in period of deep crisis, 2013 or something like that. I had read somewhere that there were more than 1,500 sort of theatrical shows on, from experimental to more sort of big productions at one time in Athens that year or something like that, which makes me think that yes, it is. But
Okay, so true? Is your answer true?
yes.
True, that is correct. Wow, 2
Right.
out of 3, and very sound rationale as well. So, with over 140 theatrical stages, Athens is the drama queen of global theater. From ancient amphitheaters to experimental black boxes, the city takes its Dionysian heritage seriously. Amazing. Maybe we need to go to Athens and do a culture. Maybe you can organize a study trip. Like
I'm always
Yeah.
it's always in my mind, but there's either no time or it's just difficult to coordinate things. But I'm sure I'm going to do something.
No, it sounds amazing. All right, 2 out of 3. Let's see if you can take the final one home as well. So fact number 3, temporary use of abandoned buildings in Athens is legally supported and widely adopted by the municipality as a formal placemaking strategy.
No.
Yeah, you were pretty sure about that. That is correct. Yeah, you never know. So, although widespread informally, Greece lacks a robust legal framework for temporary use. Activations often happen in a gray area between legality and necessity.
Yeah.
So that's correct. So 3 out of 3, excellent.
There on that point, there are many. I mean, you can be a sort of individual that wants to reuse it. You have to buy, and it's like permits are really difficult. But there are at least these groups that are discussing that now, and there are things that are happening very slowly, but it's not definitely not supported by the state, because there's so many empty buildings owned by the state that nothing's happening with them. Not even, let's not talk about culture or temporary cultural use. Let's talk about sort of social welfare, and it's just not being exploited in a good way.
Maybe that's an idea for you. That's in your destiny. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Well, that was fun. Well done. But that means that sadly our time for the moment has come to an end, but we're going to keep talking and keep collaborating.
Yes, absolutely.
So all that's left for me to do is thank you so much for your generosity of time and insights, and I'm sure our audience will find everything you've said very valuable and practical.
Thank you very much for having me. I really, really enjoyed this, and I'm a fan of your podcast. So it's
Yeah,
and it's my first podcast that I'm doing. So it's
wow!
yeah.
So we popped your podcast
Yes,
cherry.
yes. It has been very, very interesting and
what
very
an
fun
honor.
to do. And I'm very happy we can do this here.
Oh,
so.
yes. No, I think when you suggested it, I think this was like on location, epic idea. So thank you for talking place with me, George.
Great. Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to join the conversation on social media with the hashtag #TalkingPlace. I would also love for you to leave our podcast a review and subscribe to all our podcasts and YouTube channels so you don't miss an episode. There's so much more to explore when it comes to creating good places, and I'm excited to do a deep dive into other topics with you in our next episode. I'm Tanisha Raffiuddin, and it's been my pleasure to be your podcast host. Thank you for listening. See you again next time, where we'll continue talking place. Talk soon.